Hi, everyone. Welcome to the bonus round. Oh, why do we have a bonus round? Well, Cindy and I thought that this was best something demonstrated. And so that's why we're bringing you this bonus live stream. And it was also something that we could have recorded ahead of time and shared, but neither one of us had time to do it ahead of time, so it became a live. Um, there you know. Now you have the rest of the story, so to speak. Um, but we wanted to talk about the new packaging. There's been a lot of chatter about the move from a, a DVD case to this, right? Size is different, lots of differences, right? And um, I'm not going to talk about the move from red rubber cling stamps to photopolymer because that's a different discussion. That's not relevant to what I want to share with you today. Um, oh, Linda, I'm so excited. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you. And I saw that you said it was snowy, so I'm dying to know how much snow you have there. In my day job, I support federal community health clinics on the East Coast. So I have Maine, um, Maine, Vermont, New Jersey. So they're all snow. Oh, and Wisconsin and Michigan. Yeah, so I have a lot of snowy states that I'm covering, and so that's always the weather is always a topic of conversation because tornado weather here. I'm like, oh hey, we might have to have a timeout. If my power goes out, it's kind of stormy here today. So I'm always fascinated by the weather that is taking place in other parts of the world. And my good friend Cindy, she lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so it's kind of snowy there a lot of times too. So anyway, let's take a look at the packaging and kind of what I'm doing to incorporate the things that I liked about what I was doing with DVD cases and the things that I feel like are going to be best here. And I've got some options for you. So I'm going to switch cameras and walk you through it. Okay, so first I want to talk a little bit about what I did before. So this is stamp called Gallery Blooms, and it is a part of a bundle, right? So um, I put these stickers on the side, right? So this tells me that this is introduced. Yeah. So when things carry over, this indicates where it was introduced um, because I don't change the stickers out. But AC25 tells me that yes, this was introduced in annual catalog 25, which is still um, current. It has a coordinating die, which tells me that's what the D indicates to me. Now, you saw how I was doing that earlier. We'll look back at that when we get to the new packaging. But I started doing this where I would stamp, I would pull out this insert. Easier said than done, evidently. I used to pull this out and I would stamp on this side, the whole thing over here, and that gave me a clean image, if you will, because once I stuck my stamps on the stamp case over the image, I couldn't always see exactly. But this gave me a mirror image and it did a couple of things. It showed me where to find the placement on the actual stamp. So this is on the outer corner at the bottom, so that's this stamp set here. This one is on the outer upper left, so that's this stamp here. So that's what I was doing. The other thing is when you have a greeting in your stamp, you can't read 3 to 4 inches more. Ooh, wow. Um, when you have greetings, I can't read what that says anymore. This is a very well loved stamp, by the way. So by stamping it over here, not only can I see the placement of it, but I can see what the stamp says. I can read the greetings. So this became very valuable to me. So I got rid of the acetate and everything was in my stamp case. So what was I going to do with the new packaging? One, I liked what this told me. This was January to April of 2025 introduced, and it's a punch bundle. That's what this tells me. So I still wanted to know that, and I wanted to be able to have an image of my stamps. So you saw earlier that I'm doing my labels, and I'm doing my labels on the actual insert. I'm not doing it on the cover. I don't know that that's going to make a difference, but anyway. So when I first did the first one, mine are actually taped down. I'm going to show you how I did this, and I need to add more adhesive because that is causing a problem. So I'm going to show you how I did this, because when the stamp comes, it comes just like this, right? So there's nothing on either side. It's just this clear thing. So I've got several up here, so I think I can show you some different ideas. But now mine, I peel it apart, right? They're pretty well stuck. So let's talk about some options. I pulled out a separate piece of acetate because the first thing I'm going to show you is something I know I won't do. So, but what Lisa Curcio is doing, so this your stamp has one piece of acetate that's pretty thin, and then one piece that's pretty thick and sturdy. What Lisa is doing is she's taking a Sharpie and flipped her stamp set over, right? And she is drawing the outline here. So I know I won't do that, so I'm just going to give you the idea with a different piece of acetate. So what she does is she just roughly goes around the stamp. Doesn't have to be perfect. The idea is that at a glance you can see that all of your stamps have been returned to their home, or that they haven't. And I'll tell you why I wouldn't do this in a second when I have the visual to share. Yeah, I'm going to take the time to do each one pretty rough. And of course, I wouldn't have to hold on to this if I was doing it on the actual acetate of the stamp set. Okay, whoops. Now, when I put this, now I can tell at a glance because it's, right, the outline is there. So if I pull this stamp off, I know where it's going to go back, and I can tell that they're all in their home. And then what she does is she just stores them just like that, okay? She doesn't have, it's not an extra piece for her. It's actually the piece that the stamps are stuck to. But what bothers me about this is the fact that it just goes back in here, because when I get ready to work on this stamp set, I know that this is all going to become separate, that the insert's going to be over there, and there's going to be stamps on my blocks over here, and then the acetate that the stamps need to go back on is going to be somewhere else. It's going to be under cardstock. It's going to be under designer series paper. It might fall on the floor. So they're all separate. That's what doesn't appeal to me about that idea. Now, it doesn't mean I couldn't incorporate this into what I'm doing, but it's just not necessary. So what I am doing, I'll show you kind of some alternatives with it as well. And this is kind of the nice thing about not doing it on the sleeve, is that I don't have to worry about putting them back in the same sleeve. If I've got multiples out here, that's okay. So, all right, working with our little Easter guy, what I'm going to do is peel this part off, and then I'm going to ink this up, And, I like to have fun. Now you could use Stays On ink with this, and then you wouldn't have to wait for it to dry. I had to wait for it to dry in the old method that I was doing, so that doesn't really bother me. Um, Pretty in pink, nice Easter color, so that's what I'm going to stamp this in. But you could stamp this in black, and you could stamp it in anything that you like. You could stamp it in Stays On. I kind of have fun stamping in what I think coordinates. I know, sometimes it's just the little things. All right, now, so I'm going to position this where I want it, roughly, and then I'm going to bring this over. Okay, that really doesn't change whether you do the next part that I do or not. Now, this needs to dry. For me, I do this. I take out my heat tool and I give it a dry. Doesn't take more than a couple of minutes. And I'm just realizing that I need a chamois. I'm going to have to go find that so I can let this dry while I get my chamois. So give me a second. Normally that's right there by my desk, but somehow or another it isn't because I washed my chamois the other day. So now I've got that stamped, I've got that drying. I need to clean the ink off of my stamp. I have a couple of chamois that I've cut into 4 pieces just because it's easy to hold on to, easy to work with, whatever. So now the next piece I'm going to do is show you kind of Jennifer Cotton's method. And that still looks like it's not quite dry, so we're going to hit it with the heat tool a little bit more. Now, how we all store this new packaging is going to vary a lot, right? And probably what we do here is going to vary a fair bit too. But now you stamp this before you ever peel it off of either piece, okay? Okay. Now what you do is you put this piece, this acetate, back on. Oh gosh, I can see that I did not clean that off very well. All right, we'll take it on the big piece this time and see. And I got, yay, I've got inky. Okay, so put this piece of acetate back on here. All right, sorry, my head is probably right in there. And I'm going to add tear and tape to that piece, that flimsy piece is the one that I'm going to add tear and tape to. And I'm going to find the right end. Where's the start? Okay, there's the start. And I truly believe in this is tear and tape. It's not tear and cut. And I want this to stick pretty well. So I'm going to add a fair bit. That upper piece is the one that's probably most critical that I get it in the edges. I did add glue dots to one of these that I didn't tape down so well at the top. So, all right, now I've got that down. I'm going to burnish it so it'll peel off okay. All right, and I'm going to peel off my tape. Peel off my tape. Still peeling off my tape. Okay. Then I'm going to place this over where I've stamped. The idea, okay, now, how about that? So what's different, okay, so now when I need to stamp, I'm going to peel this off, and I'm going to peel my stamp off, and I'm good to go. The rest of it stays. So it's in my insert, right, which is what I like, but it's not difficult to open, right? I'm just going to peel this off when I need to get my stamp. And of course, I could take the whole thing off and work from it, which means that this is going to get lost on my desk somewhere. I can peel them off individually, or, you know, whatever works for you. And you know what? It might work differently in different situations. But this is Jennifer Cotton's method, so she would do that. Yeah, I like this too, Linda, because now, okay, I admit I take a certain satisfaction from this whole opening this way. But again, then I'm back to, okay, so here is here, this one is this one, this one is this one, this one is this, you know. So I think what I'm gonna do is give this, I'm gonna try this out, right? Because I can always come back and add tear and tape to this and then tape it over, and then I would be peeling it off just like that. So I can give this a try and see how I like it and do the other piece later if that's what I decide I like, right? So the other piece that you saw me do would be to add my little JA26. And I'm putting these in the center because it stays away from that edge of the fold of the folder. Edge of the fold of the folder. I've got a D. Give me a D, please. And because I know this is part of a die bundle, so I've added my D. And then on the dies that correspond, okay, get in there. On the dies that correspond, I'm gonna put this over there. So those are the dies. So on their insert, I do really like the idea of putting the sticker on the insert instead of the pocket, because those make it separated on my desk. So I've added the JA26, and now I suppose sometimes you have dies that don't bundle with something, so you know I might have to do something else to identify them. Okay, but there's that. Now, have you tried to make a copy of your dies to the stamp? Have you ever tried to make a copy of your dies to the stamp thing? All right, Dana, we may have to take that offline. Okay, now, I would typically put this on a 5x7 sheet because that fits. 6x6 isn't gonna fit. But this is probably bigger as well. So what am I gonna do about it? But you see, I have all this sticky here that when I take these off, if I don't do something, it's gonna stick to the insert, and that's what I want to avoid. So I'm going to see what I can do. This tape, I mean, gosh, is there anything that that tape won't hold? And then the basket. Usually I put these down, you know, at least the first time, the same way they are on the on this sticky card. They vary from there. All right, so, and they had this inside here, and they had this inside there. I moved it just a little bit to see if I might have room to put anything else, and I did. So now, this was this way, and then there's the little bunny. I love the game of Tetris. In my world, that's the original and the only video game. Let's see if he's not going to fit there. Okay. So if I can't make this fit, then I'm probably going to pull 2 magnet cards out. And I have a second one over here. But I feel like I'm going to be so close that it may not be worth trying to squish it all on here, although truly, doesn't this feel like it should go? Are you? The challenge is if I make it too tight, then it only goes back in here one way. And that's not fun either, especially in a class. So, all right, I think I made it fit, but I'll show you if it just wouldn't fit, then I think that I could just take a second magnet and I can put them, you know, I can put them back to back. But I think that should fit in my envelope. And then I'm going to close it like that. Now, some people are putting these bundles, they would put this in the same envelope. And you know what? It would, even like this, it would probably all fit. And, you know, but then you have to decide, okay, which one are the dies going in the middle, like that? You know, how do you want to do it? But they fit. It's heavy, it's substantial. So that's an option as well. So I don't know, I think that gave you a lot of ideas. So far, I'm identifying my stamp, identifying them as a bundle, but keeping them in separate pockets. We'll see when we get to the next launch if I have stuck with Jennifer Cotton's method of this, if I am gonna peel them like this. I can tell you I'm not gonna do Lisa Curcio's method. Now I wholeheartedly think you need to do what works for you. I hope that this gives you some helpful ideas. I do think there's huge benefit in identifying what catalog. That will help you down the road find samples. You know, the catalogs are stored online, so you can, you know, you can go Stampin' Up! January to April 2026 in a couple of years and still find the images from the catalog available. They won't be on the Stampin' Up! Website. They'll be on Pinterest, or I can't even think who saves those. But if you save your catalogs, and I always save one copy of my catalog, then I'll be able to come back to this catalog and find it, after it's retired. Um, so that's what I'm doing with mine. My DVD cases are stored over there. I have, okay, we'll just see if I can show you. Okay, so those are, they're specifically for DVDs. Um, and I have probably as many, some of those are actually retired that I've held on to. Those last two on the left are retired products. And then the bottom, these over here are current. I have a cabinet over there that is, um, it's a bookcase, and it's this, I don't know, 30 or so inches wide, but the, they're tall enough that I can store my pockets in there. And initially, like I said, I was placing my labels over here along the edge. Well, I'm storing them on that bookshelf like this. So when I thumb through, this part was on the inside of the bookcase, which meant that was the hardest place to see that. That's going to matter at some point. It doesn't right now. Um, Ideally, these would face out. They'd be stored side by side, and I would flip through. I'd have two rows basically on the shelf. So I don't know. These are not deep enough for me to actually put the storage containers that you can get at the Container Store or Amazon. So that part's still a work in progress. Um, what do you do? How are you storing these pockets? How do you see yourself storing the pockets and flipping through them? Will you store them by catalog? Will you store them by theme? Um, what does your method look for you? Because I don't have the spine anymore. In my cases over there, I can look at the spine and see the name of the stamp set. I can see what catalog. I can see if it's part of a bundle, and I usually mark them with an R at the bottom here when they retire. I don't keep all my retired. I sell most of my retired products. So, inquiring minds want to know. This inquiring mind wants to know. And I bet that everybody would like to see what you're doing. We've all got opportunities to learn from each other. So I love that about the launch, that we're sharing ideas and and memories. I love sharing the memories too. So, all right, it is 2:30. There is a post coming up talking about the product of the month. Um, and then I will be back at 3. We're going to look at the online exclusives at 3 o'clock. And we're kind of winding down, aren't we? We have 3, 5, and 7 left to go. 3 and 5 will be at least half hour long. The 7 o'clock will be pretty short because by then I'll be pretty much, just drooling. So, anyway, I hope that was helpful. I can't wait to hear your ideas, and I will see you in half an hour. Take care.